Hi, and welcome. I've got a question for all of you today. What language do the Spanish speak? Mexican? No, it's Spanish, obviously. What language do the Germans speak? German. What language do the Irish speak? Well, obviously they must speak Irish, right? Wait, no. They speak English. No, do they speak Irish? Do the Irish speak Irish? And if they don't, why do the Irish not speak Irish? Well, the answer to that question is simple. They do. And they did. But for the overwhelming majority of Irish people today, their mother tongue is English. So how did this happen? Well, the nation of Ireland has a long and storied history. A proud people with a distinct culture. For an island with only about 7 million people, they have had a significant cultural impact on the planet. Most notably in the Anglo world, such as America, Australia, Britain, and this can be reflected in the great Irish festivals such as St. Patrick's Day, the spread of Halloween. So, the Irish have spread a lot of their culture around the world, but not the language of Irish. So what caused the decline of the Irish language? Well, unsurprisingly, this can be traced back to the English. So, the English first invaded Ireland in 1169 AD in the Anglo-Norman invasion of Ireland. The English created the lordship of Ireland, and the control of Ireland was under the kings of England. However, the lordship of Ireland shrank steadily over the following centuries as the Normans assimilated into the Irish culture. In 1366, the English crown, in an attempt to assert authority, assembled a parliament in Kilkenny, and the Statute of Kilkenny was enacted. Now, the aim of this statute was it forbade intermarriage between English settlers and the native Irish, and forbade the settlers from speaking Irish and adopting Irish modes of dress or customs of Irish culture. However, this act largely failed to be successful, and by the Tudor period, Irish culture and language had rebounded in the regions that were initially conquered by the Anglo-Normans. By the start of the 15th century, only the Pale remained of the former lordship of Ireland. The modern-day rule of Ireland, as in the last 500 years, began with the Tudor conquest of Ireland by everyone's favourite Henry VIII in the 1530s. The Tudors sought to subdue Irish people and its culture, instead encouraging the use of the English language. But these attempts ended poorly. While Queen Elizabeth I, who succeeded Queen Mary, encouraged the use of the Irish, even in the Pale. But these early attempts marked the beginning of Irish's slow decline, with this becoming more evident through the 17th and 18th century, although evidence of this decline can only be observed indirectly. For example, the rate of indigenous Gaelic surnames was used as a measurement for the status of the Irish language in the late 17th century. In Dublin, there was only about 26% usage of Gaelic surnames. However, in the rural areas around Dublin, there was 90% usage. By the 1730s, the estimate was that 2/3 of Ireland spoke Ireland, so still a clear majority. However, indications of the decline of Irish was noted more later in that century, through the applications from young Irishmen to French seminaries who wished to study and become Catholic priests. In the early 18th century, scholarship applications with a Gaelic component were the majority offered and accepted by aspiring priests in Ireland, but a clear decline in Irish vernacular was noted with a decrease of students studying their Catholic scholarship in Irish by the end of the 1700s. However, by the 1800s, Irish was still the majority language. While a slow decline was noted, the language, though, still remained strong. However, there would be a dramatic decline in the 19th century for a combination of reasons. It would be the Great Famine, unsurprisingly, that would have the most significant effect on the Irish language. The Irish potato famine between 1845 and 1852 was apocalyptic in nature for Ireland in many ways, with catastrophic effects on Irish society that would forever change and impact the country of Ireland going forward. During the famine, 1 million Irishmen died, and a further million immigrated as refugees escaping the hell unraveled by the famine in all a period of 7 years. They mostly went to America, but also to Britain itself and the British colonies of Australia, Canada, New Zealand. The famine had a dramatic effect on the Irish language, with majority Irish-speaking areas being the most severely affected by this famine, which were in the west and south of Ireland, where the language was dominant. There was also little appetite within Ireland itself, outside of Irish nationals, to preserve the Irish language. The language had been in decline before the famine, but the famine only accelerated the process. Other factors that played into its decline included, well, there was a combination of reasons. These included the introduction of state-funded schools, primarily from the church in 1831. These national schools were fantastic. Providing a free education to the poor Irish people is a great thing. However, it dealt a great blow to the Irish language. The impact on the language was drastic. Classes were taught in English, with Irish only becoming part of the curriculum in 1878, and even then it was only taught as a curiosity, with English taking the focus. And even then it was only a curiosity, other languages such as Latin, French and Greek being seen as more important. Irish parents weren't that eager for their kids to learn Irish either, and they were very eager for their children to learn English, with English deemed to have greater prestige as it was associated with culture and enlightenment. In schools, teachers adopted a system to prevent students from speaking any Irish known as butterscore, or I definitely butchered that, or tally stick. Students would wear a tally stick around their neck for mistakenly speaking even a few words of Irish, and a notch would be inserted for every new offence of speaking Irish. The effects of this, and the famine, and the mass immigration that followed Ireland in the aftermath for the coming decades, also led to English becoming seen as more prominent, viewed as a key to escaping the country, because the Irish didn't want to live in Ireland either. With Irish relatives who had already made the trip to places such as America, England, and Australia, and other countries adamant that English must be learnt before moving there. Irish was viewed as antiquated and useless, not modern or adaptable to a modern, rapidly industrializing urban world that was emerging, with difficult grammar and pronunciation and very low literacy rates. Ireland was a very religious nation, heavily Catholic. The Bible could only be read in English, with it not being until 1981 that the first Irish New Testament was published. Therefore, for the Irish, the only way for them to get close to God and have that spiritual connection was through English. Irish was regarded as useless outside of Ireland, not adaptable to modern life, and very low prestige, and difficult grammar and pronunciation. Overall, an insignificant number of books in Irish were printed before and after the famine. Irish politicians weren't themselves that keen on preserving the language, one of the most outspoken opponents to the use of Irish being Daniel O'Connell. O'Connell had been a champion of Ireland, known as the Liberator, a hero of the people of Ireland. He mobilized Catholic Ireland and secured Catholic emancipation in 1829 and the right to Irish representation in Westminster, where he would be elected twice to. O'Connell, while the Speaker of Irish, refused to defend it, and is quoted as saying from supporter William J. O'Neill to have dismissed Irish. And in his words, "I am sufficiently utilitarian not to regret its gradual abandonment. The diversity of tongues is no benefit. It was first imposed upon mankind as a curse. At the building of Babel, it would be of great advantage to mankind if all the inhabitants of the earth spoke the same language. Therefore, though the Irish language is connected with many recollections that twine around the hearts of Irishmen, yet the superior utility of the English tongue as a medium of all modern communication is so great that I can witness without a sigh the gradual disuse of Irish." This was a view shared by many in Ireland, and many by the Irish elite. And with O'Connell's massive political and social influence, this attitude continued for several decades. Irish had become despised by the Irish themselves. Abandoned by the general population, English was now the unquestioned language of Ireland, the language of schools, literacy, news, administration, governance, business, urban life, and religion. By 1900, Irish was a minority language in Ireland, with only just about 650,000 people speaking it in 1900. Attempts were made to revive the language, but to little success. With the language having continued to shrink through time, while made of an official language of Ireland in 2003 and of the European Union recognised languages in 2007, the language remains under threat, with UNESCO's Atlas of World Languages in danger identifying Irish as an endangered language. Although the Irish census identified the number of speakers to be 1.7 million, this is likely significantly lower, with most people who took yes to the question only speaking a little bit of Irish. UNESCO estimates that there are only about 20,000 to 40,000 fluent Irish speakers in the country today, and so it is due to all these reasons that the Irish don't speak Irish, a language that the English conquerors initially tried to repress, starved by the famine, which then led to a long and dark period for Ireland, which saw the Irish language despised by its own people. In Ireland, they are proud of its Irish culture, history, and heritage, and the Irish diaspora as a result of the famine is massive. More Irish people live outside of Ireland than in Ireland, and the effects of Irish culture has transcended and influenced the nations. The Irish have made their new homes. But one aspect of Ireland didn't come with them, and that was left to rot and die in the old country, and that was Irish. For Ireland, most of the Irish don't speak Irish, and they never will speak it as a native tongue again. But attempts can be made, and are being made, to limited success, to preserve the language from the dustpan of history. Thank you, and if you enjoyed that, don't forget to subscribe for more.